Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope you're ready for some more OCD training. Or reading I should say. Because I am. Now, I am fully aware right now that the videos for me reading this book are getting lower and lower. And it's like my channel had a nice high and now it's dipping again. But you know what? That's okay. Really is, because I understand that me reading this book is not the most exciting thing to watch or listen to. I get that. You know, that's okay. It's not for everyone. Because this, I'll be honest, is mostly for me. It keeps me busy. It's a great way, for me, this is a great way of reading the book. Because I often have trouble concentrating when I just read by myself. I mean, I can try all these special musics you see. You know, the binaural beats, the 8D music, all that stuff. But it doesn't always help though, if you know what I mean. But reading out loud to you and uploading to YouTube does make it stick in here more than normal. And that's a good thing. And even if no one's watching, that's okay. It really is. So with that out of the way, I'd like to introduce you to my free therapy dogs. Ein, Zwei, and Drei. My free therapy dogs. And of course we have the book. Now, my nose is better, so there should be less me sniffing tonight. And you probably notice I'm back behind the yellow wall. I tried it on the sofa and it didn't really work out. Because I was kind of tilted like this, I think. Okay, this is being exaggerated, but I was tilted. Or my whole body was tilted, I should say. And it looked weird. So, I'm back behind the wall. There you go, that's better. That's sort of centralised. So, without further ado, shall we carry on? Be objective. When looking at evidence, we need to be careful. Need to be careful about emotions. Wish someone told me this years ago. I would have blocked them all out. Then I'd be a heartless son of a person. And I'd have a whole new range of issues. We said earlier that it is likely when you are carrying out your compulsions, they generally feel necessary as they feel like they have helped you avert a danger. That is very true. Or helped you decrease your anxiety by an amount. However, things feel necessary, that is not the same as meaning that they are necessary. So consider times when you are feeling less anxious, and if the drive to complete the compulsions is as strong. Look out for the following OCD traps when considering evidence, or theory A or B. Number 1. Ambiguous or circumstantial evidence. Just because two things happen at the same time, it does not mean that one caused the other. 2. Biases. Are you just thinking about the one case where something went wrong, and ignoring the many cases when it did not? 3. Double standards. Are you applying much harsher rules for yourself than you would for other people? Well, obviously, yes, I am. I've done that all my life. Where have you joined the party, book? It's very late noticing that. Or are you judging yourself from a point of view now of having more information than you did at the time? No, I just judge myself very harshly. I really do. Number 4. Overvaluing your responsibility. Is your sense of responsibility working overtime? Kind of, yeah. And number 5. Feelings as evidence. Are you taking anxiety itself as evidence that there is something to fear? Well, obviously, yes. Feelings are the best evidence there is. But of course, that's why I'm reading the book, so they don't become the best evidence ever. Implications of theory A/B. What follows from each? In all of the examples above, there is very little hard evidence on the side of theory A at all. In each case, theory B seems to fit much better as an explanation of the person's problems. But let's not stop there. Remember that our version of theory A is very likely to have been, up to now, how you have been defining your problem. There is more work to do in terms of considering what it really means to live according to either of these two theories. So let me put this down a bit, that's better. We need to know what follows from each theory, what each one means in terms of the principles you need to apply. Next thing to think about then is if theory A or theory B was true, and you believed it wholeheartedly, what would that mean you needed to do? Let's take each one separately. Remember to treat each theory as a definitive statement. Not definitive, what am I saying? I'm an idiot. Let's start this sentence again, shall we? Remember to treat each theory as a definite statement of the problem, so don't hold back. We are working out what would need to happen if the problem was definitely one of danger or definitely one of worry. Implications for Jennifer's checking OCD. Jennifer considered a checking problem using the boxes below. I'll show you what we have here. I hope you can... There you go. Hopefully you can read that properly. I'm going to be rooting for it anyway, but you get to look at it. Firstly, she considered theory A. Theory A says the problem is that household appliances could catch fire, which is true, they can. Theory B says the problem is that I worry about household appliances catching fire. I'll tell you something, people, both are true. So what do I need to do? For theory A, I need to check all the appliances to make sure they are safe. I need to try to remember how I checked as I do it. I need to get other people to check as well. And I need to get rid of household appliances / never go out. So let me turn the page. And of course, that's how checking OCD gets to you. When Jennifer began to consider the behaviours that followed from taking theory A as 100% true, she wrote down a list of rules which were in fact almost exactly what she had been doing. She had been checking and taking a lot of precautions. However, even though she felt compelled to do these things, there had been some doubt in her mind about whether these precautions were excessive. She was certainly aware that most people did not take the same measures that she did. Although her belief that the problem of danger was high, and very high when she was anxious, it was not 100%. When she thought about it, she realised that what logically followed from theory A was that her checks might not be adequate. Really, she should encourage other people to do the checks as well. Of course, other people could make a mistake as much as she could, and so the safest thing was never to go out at all. Taken to its logical conclusion, total faith in theory A meant that she should restrict all of her activities and those of other people. Jennifer had restricted her life to such a degree that she could see how far she had gone towards this. At this point, we also wanted Jennifer to consider what will happen if she continues to follow the rules of theory A, even as much as she had been doing. Now, back to theory A. Theory A says the problem is that household appliances catch fire. Theory B says the problem is that I worry about them catching fire. And as we know, both are true. If I keep following these rules, what will happen in the future? If I keep following the rules of theory A, I will need to do more and more checking. This will take over my life, and thus I will have no life. Another conclusion is that I will turn myself into an anxious mess because I will never be completely certain I've eliminated any danger. Although it's said that Jennifer may never go out again at some point in her life, it's not totally far from the truth, because this is what anxiety does. It makes you worry about things. And as silly as it seems, that your fault is, if I don't, in this case, turn off all the appliances, and one could catch fire. Because you don't want to go out and come back to a fire, because then you've lost everything in that house fire. Not only that, it's your fault for not turning off the damn appliance in the first place. But the sad fact is, these things can actually happen. That makes it worse. I'll tell you a story. Not an interesting, but it's a story. I used to work with this guy who used to charge his phone every night while he was in bed. And you're going back about 15 years now. So it's not recent, but it's recent enough. And one day he got one of those cheap chargers, because his original one stopped working. And what happened was, every night he would charge it. He would put his phone on the TV. I mean, this was back in the days before flat screen, when TVs had like a big back on them. So you could actually use the top as sort of like a mini table for ornaments and other things. And this guy I used to work with, he used to put his phone on there and charge it. And one morning he woke up to find that the phone got so hot it melted. Or rather, the plastic on the TV melted. And his phone was stuck to the TV. I mean, the TV still worked. But I say cosmetically, it was ruined. Cosmetically, because you're not going to sell that. And he had to get a new phone because it was stuck to the TV. Or because he left it on overnight. And I know it sounds stupid, but these things can happen. And this is how the anxiety starts in the first place. Because eventually you do meet someone who's done something that confirms your bias. So I honestly feel what Jennifer's feeling. I mean, I'm lucky I'm not that anxious about plugs and stuff, although I do turn most, I'm saying now, I do turn off most plugs when I'm out. Well, essential ones. You know, things like the fridge, the freezer, the TV, they tend to stay plugged in. But other things which I don't really need, and when I go out, I tend to switch off at the plug. So, am I Jennifer? Not yet. Not yet, not yet, not yet. Back to the book. For Jennifer, continuing to follow the rules of Theory A would mean that her life would have been subsumed into constant checking. She would never go out again. The thought of this made Jennifer feel very sad and anxious. However, this is what could happen if Jennifer continued along this pathway. She then began to consider Theory B and the implications if this was definitely true as a description of the problem. What struck her first was that if Theory B was true, then she did not need to do any checks, or any more than the average person. She realized that if the problem was worry, then the way to deal with that was not to give in to the worry. Now that is easier said than done, in my personal experience. The checks had been increasing her preoccupation with danger and undermined her trust in herself. Therefore, she needed to build this up again by testing out her fears and facing up to the worry. If Theory B was true and she treated the problem as though it was one of worry, then doing these things should help her overcome that problem. So Theory A says, the problem is that household appliances can catch fire. And Theory B is that the problem is that I worry about the appliances catching fire, not that they will catch fire. So, what do I need to do about this? I need to check all the appliances to make sure they're safe. I need to remember how I checked them, and that I did check them. I need to get other people to check as well. And I need to get rid of household appliances / never go out. So what do I need to do for Theory B though? That's what you're asking. Don't check more than once. Aim is not to check at all. You've got to face up to the worry. You've got to challenge those thoughts. Admittedly easier said than done, but still doable. But if I keep following the rules of Theory A, what will happen? I'll need to do more and more checking and more checking. And that will take over my entire life so that I won't do anything else. and I'll become an anxious mess because I can never be completely certain I've eliminated all the danger. But if I follow theory B, then I should become less anxious and would allow me to be normal again. Implications for Sue's contamination OCD. Next, Suze examined her problems using the same methods. Firstly, she thought about rules that followed from belief in Theory A, as Jennifer had discovered. What she had been doing corresponded with Theory A. But when she questioned herself as to whether the rules were enough, the logical conclusion of Theory A was to go even further. Wash more, avoid more, and get other people to do the same. A future lived according to these rules would be like a prison camp. Suze realised that it would take up more and more of her time to follow the rules and that she would have to increasingly restrict her life. When she thought about Theory B, it was clear that she would not need to wash excessively. It occurred to her that it might be better not to wash at all, to test out her worries. She certainly did not need to act every time she had a thought about something that could be contaminated. After all, she was bound to have lots of these thoughts if she worried about it. The future lived according to these principles was one of freedom and less anxiety. And so, what does Theory A say? The problem is that I'll get contaminated with dirt, germs, or disease. After that, anything could happen. But Theory B says the problem is that I worry I'll get contaminated, not that I will get contaminated or am contaminated. So, if Theory A is true, what do I need to do? You need to wash your hands at least 50 times a day. You need the alcohol and you need wet wipes. You must always wash your hands until they feel right. You need to use antibacterial spray several times a day on every surface. And you need to keep the lookout for brown or red marks, or any marks for that matter on stuff. And above all, you need to ensure that you don't spread those germs. So keep it all up. If I keep following these rules, what will happen? I will need to do more and more cleaning and checking. This will take over my life. So you can see where this is headed. So let's go back to Theory B, shall we? The problem is that I worry about contamination, not that I am contaminated or can contaminate. So if this is true, what do we do about it? We ignore thoughts about disease. Admittedly, easier said than done, but you know what? It's doable. You need to treat your worries as worries, not as a sign of imminent danger. You need to freely touch things when out in public without washing hands. Now, this used to be me when I was younger. I mean, I never washed my hands 50 times a day, but I was very, very paranoid about germs and contamination. I think what done it was when I started working for my dad on building sites. Most building sites don't have hygiene. They really don't. And you soon learn to live with it. But what would happen if you keep following the rules of Theory B? If you follow the rules of Theory B, you will eventually be able to do what you want with your life. And you'll be less worried about contamination. A further question that Suze considered was what it might mean about her as a person if each theory was true. What does this say about Suze as a person? She is vulnerable. But what does Theory B say about Suze? It says that she is sensitive. She has worries. She has worries and anxiety problems. But in reality, she's no more vulnerable than anybody else to these problems. Obviously, there are people who are immunocompromised and, have literally almost no immune system. Unfortunately, you can't do much about them unless they tell you about it. So you've got to assume that everyone is pretty much the same. It's not ableist, to assume that everyone has an immune system. Unfortunately, some people won't. But when you find out, you can make adjustments accordingly, but you can't let these things take over. And I'm right when I say this. I really do. Even you know who you are. You. But you know what? Sue's a determined person who wants to tackle the problem. And that, people, is all for tonight. Hope you've learned something tonight, because I have. We are learning that despite our problems, we can overcome them. We just got to be focused on it, okay? And yes, it is easier said than done. I get that. Okay? It will not be easy, but you know what? If it was easy, we wouldn't have this problem in the first place. Not only that, if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. Now bear that in mind, alright? So until next time, I'm James. This was Jennifer Lopez. This was Jean-Paul Van Damme. And this was Slobodan Milosevic. And they were my therapy dogs. Hope you're all well. Hope you're happy, and I hope you're learning something. Until next time, bye.